What are you? Who are you? Who is Cherry Hybrid? Give a quick rundown.
That's a good question. That's a good question. So again, Cherry Hybrid, and I'm an artist and a writer. I'm just a creative here in Florida, and I started under the name Cherry Hybrid when I was in Gainesville, and I just do a lot of things. Art is the biggest thing that I do, but I make zines. I help people with music when I can. I started off with photography, so I do that, some videography. I try to get into everything.
Okay. And you also are a recent graduate, correct?
Yeah. It's like maybe 6 days now that I'm a graduate.
Wow, congratulations.
I appreciate it, man.
Round of applause.
Yeah. You don't have an applause track on here?
No.
We don't have room in the budget,
cuts.
Nah.
Actually,
right.
hold on. Oh, no.
The buttons don't work.
Nothing routed this whole show, I think. Wait. Yeah, nothing.
I think you need to pull up some YouTube.
Actually,
claps,
I think it does work. Hold on.
This is very low.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does work. Hold on.
Excuse us right now as we're figuring out the board for the first time. You got any bombs?
This is the first. Hold on. Applause. We gotta.
There you go. Yeah, okay. I can take that. All right. Keep that one. Keep those two buttons on hands. All right. This whole time.
Can we give a round of applause for the fact I just found that on the last episode?
Well, we gotta hit the button now. We're making new discoveries this last episode.
You know how many times that could have saved me from awkward pauses?
Yeah. Every time you have to cough, man, you just gotta press.
Just hit that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, we're gonna send you guys off on a quick little commercial break, and then we'll get back and get more into who Cherry Hybrid is and what they benefit me in what way, because
that's what matters.
That is the only reason I brought him over. So yeah, all right, be right back. All right, and we are back. Um, so let's quickly cover the fact that I just found out I was in an Instagram video for a local business. That came into my shop actually for Small Business Week. Which shout out to small businesses, guys. Make sure you support. Um, Always head to your local coffee shops, local sandwich shops. Um, you know, you got any local shops you're regular at? Just small businesses as a whole.
Not here, but if you're ever in Gainesville, there's a spot called Square House Pizza, and they make Detroit style, which is, I believe, it's the sauce on top. Which actually, I don't know how, but for 2 years I didn't realize I was eating Detroit style pizza. I just was like, oh, okay, it's just really saucy. It's going through the cheese. Didn't even realize, but it's really good. So if you're around there, I'd hit that up. But I think that we should create a phrase for the phenomenon when you realize that you're spread throughout the internet. Because to this day, a picture that I was taken 4 years ago, and this is before I had like long hair, I had like a buzz cut, I'm wearing like beat up shoes.
I know you're on the website.
Yeah, I'm on the website to this day. I don't know why. Like I won like a little competition and they used me as their front cover for this competition. Does not make sense. It's been 4 years. They have plenty of photos. Why am I still on there? And I don't look good either. So it's not like I'm a good mascot.
You have the link?
I do have the link, yes.
You look so awkward.
I do.
That picture could be mean. I saved the picture. I remember taking the picture.
And Gainesville's a college town, right? So what they love more than anything is to look like they're diverse.
So they had to represent the light-skinned dude. That is, for some reason, awkwardly very far away from any people.
It's
just
like
photo. You. It's just you in like a corner room, and there's people kind of off to the right.
Yeah, no one's close to me at all. So it looks like I'm just by myself. And
you must
just reading.
Stunk up the room that day.
It wasn't good. And I mentioned the whole diverse thing because I have friends, all of mixed descent, right? And they're also on different websites they could find themselves from years ago, and they just don't change them out because it's perft.
I think it is like perfect. Just enough, but not too much is what what they love to see.
You got to be careful because you're HCC now, so you might want to be checking those websites. Just
I don't
to make
know.
Sure you're on there.
I actually, for some reason, I trust ACC with my whole heart that they probably wouldn't exploit that type of stuff.
You need to wake up, man. All right, look where you're at right now. All right,
it is 2026. I will say that. But we digress. But we digress. Yes. Let's talk a little bit about what you do on a deeper scale. What type of art are you working on? What have you contributed? And yeah, let's hear it.
I will say for the record, it's hard for me to talk about myself. I kind of try to stay as humble as possible. Especially because I ain't rich, I ain't famous yet. So I can't have a big head about things. But collage is a big thing that I'm doing right now. Like I'm working with some new collage techniques, and I'm trying to make that into a fine art. Because I've been discovering that society uses this term fine art as like a way to divide classes,
Yeah.
Like if you a certain race, if you make a certain amount of money, then or a lack of money, then you're just kind of making hobbyism. Like you're doing something for fun. You're not making art. So I've been trying to challenge that recently as much as possible, and because of that, I work with collage, which is considered this like, oh, that's just a little hobby you're doing. That's just a little
patchwork,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah, you're not getting in this gallery, you're not getting in this museum. So I've been working with that. And honestly, I've been thinking recently that it kind of reminds me of your own music career, man. Like the way that we were doing things outside the box,
Yeah, I think we both represent collage work in different mediums. Like is what I like to think about it.
Write that quote down real quick.
Yeah, write that down.
Yeah.
But yeah, your art is very, in a way, it is. Divine chaos is like the best way to describe it. There's a beauty to chaos, and I think that like you encapsulate that in your pieces. Ian specializes in something that he calls fragmentals, correct?
Yeah, fragmentalism.
And so what does that entail?
It's kind of like this has been around for a long time. For as long as art has been a thing. but there's never been a title for it. And I'm calling it fragmentalism. And it just means the creation of larger images through small fragments of
You should
pieces.
patent that. I'm not even joking.
I'm
should patent that.
you know, yeah, I'm trying to, and I've been spreading this anywhere I can along with my name, so. But it's just, like you'll see something like someone makes like a portrait of Donald Trump out of bottle caps, like that's fragmentalism. For me, it's paper. I take pieces of paper and I create larger images, whether it's a person or a landscape or whatever. But it could literally be anything that you're creating as long as it's through smaller materials into a bigger object. But it's been really fun, and honestly, like it's been an amazing journey trying to create art. In this way, it's really therapeutic.
It is, and it's so detailed too. What's the biggest piece you've made through fragmentalism?
It was probably like I think 46 by 48 inches, which doesn't sound like that much.
That's a small child. That is pretty tall. That's pretty big.
That's a big child. There's a black backdrop right behind your host, and it's about that size.
Wow. Never mind. That is me if I tripled in size and ate 3 triple dippers a day for a year after tripling in size.
It's hard because, visual arts, like, what do you do with this work when it's done? Like, if you're not selling it, then you have to store it somewhere. So the size, it's a big factor. Luckily, I do everything on paper, so I can just roll it up, but it's still an issue. So that's the biggest I've gone so far. And also, I'm trying to go against that whole bigger is better in art. I feel like a lot of times that's what it is. Sometimes with music, it's like the more expensive the album, the better it is. Like you put more money into it and it makes it more valuable. Sometimes, like you record some audio on your phone, and I've heard like big artists record stuff casually like that, and it's amazing songs. It doesn't have to be this big production. So that's kind of what I've been running into, where everyone's like, oh, I want a larger piece of art. I want something larger because that's more important. And I'm like, man, something that's 4 by 6 that could fit in my pocket, I think that's just as important as something that's 50 inches or 50 feet, really.
You know what would be a badass thing? And if you should keep this for an interview, I'm just giving you this advice, is when they ask you about your art, you should tell them that, you leave it in galleries because you don't have room to fit it anywhere else. So be like, I just kind of send it off. They're kind of up in galleries just because I don't have any room for them, Isn't that the biggest flex to have, like, most of your art pieces are stored, like, are on showcase?
Yeah, honestly. That's, I've been doing that, and there's been a couple different times where a gallery has saved my life because I was able to store something there for a good amount of time in between moves. I remember telling you when I was moving places a year ago, like, I didn't know where to put all these art pieces, and luckily I had this gallery show, and I was able to store them in between the move. But that's a big thing, is where am I putting this stuff once I create it?
Yeah. I want to shout out your accomplishments real quick. Just give us a few names of some galleries / museums and local, areas in your community that have showcased your art. If you have a list on hand.
Yeah, I have some off the top of my memory, and some of these places, I think that if anyone's ever in Gainesville, which I know my friends here in Tampa, they always give me, stuff about living in Gainesville now. But it could be a fun place if you know where to go. And some of that is the Slate Gallery. That's like a very kind of hole in the wall spot, and it kind of reminds me of like the 80s New York that I read about. The whole art scene, everything being kind of weird and out there. I love it. So that's a big spot that I get showcased in. And there's the GFA Gallery. That's another one. And I try to get everywhere as much as I can, honestly, just because I feel like if you're a creative and you're our age and trying to make it in this world, you can't not go after something. So 100%. Anytime I see something, especially if it's free, that they're accepting submissions, I got to. Even if it's just one day that it's up there, like it's something to put on my CV, it's something to put there. And I'm trying to look for there was a spot, Tempest Projects in Tampa, actually. That's the only place I've been featured in Tampa so far. And that was with the How Bazaar Market that happened earlier in 2025. Really good event, and they allowed me to put up some work in the building, and it was a really good time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, guys, keep in mind anyone listening that is a creative, just make sure anytime you see any open submission, go for it. I mean, all it takes is shooting your shot. We have Cherry Hybrid as the proof, that you guys, if you really go after it, you can, get a real strong list of accomplishments. Um, there's something that you said earlier that kind of, like, I wanted to cover it real quick. I just want to rewind. You said that it's real difficult to talk about yourself as a creative because you keep humble. I think that is very crucial that you remember that people who deem that art a extension of them is people who view art as ego. And I know you are true to like your craft and passionate about it. So I know like it it's a medium speaking through you, so you should never feel like afraid to talk about your art, even if you have to talk about what it is. I know what it's like to be like, I'm making this, this is my, you know what I'm saying? And I hate when people do that because it's like it's just a piece of art at the end of the day, no matter the medium. And I think that's important to detach the ego from it. But it is also like you should definitely, you talk your stuff, it came from your hands, you crafted this. So, don't be too afraid to stand up on your high horse sometimes.
Yeah, I get you, and it's an issue that I'll have to, that each year I create art, it's easier and easier and more for me to like talk about it, and especially because you're not going to run into a lot of people who are going to ask you about your work, like you have some friends who will be like, hey, what are you working on, but you're out, you're in a gallery, you're wherever you are, just on the streets, like no one's going to come up to you and be like, yo, are you a creative? Like, what are you up to? You have to talk about it. And there is an ego to it, and it makes sense. You're creating something from conceivably nothing.
Yeah.
So it's natural for an ego to come, but it's always been hard for me to judge the line between being the humble person who's not going to get caught up and be like, oh, I'm a big head artist, versus like having the good ego that's like, I have enough confidence to go up to someone and be like, hey, this is me, this is what I work with, and I like to work with you on something. So it's something, I'm working on it, and I think it's very vital to anyone's career, whatever kind of artist you are, that you have to be able to juggle that humbleness and that ego. Because if you put all of it into one of those things, whether you're 100% humble, 100% egotistical, you're not going to find success.
Yeah. People think they're too good to work with others. Sometimes that's what I've noticed. But yeah, it is difficult to to balance that ego stuff. I kind of lost my train of thought. I had something to say. Shoot, give me like 5 seconds.
What are you doing? Well, I will say that I've run into a lot of people in Gainesville who have big heads about things, and they act like they are too good to be working on a project. You don't have an interest in a project, working with me, that's okay. But I think that if you are living in Gainesville and you're an artist, you should not be having a big head about anything. You're in Gainesville, Florida, all right? You're not in New York City. So what are we talking about? Yeah, exactly. Scooby, yeah. Shout out to Scooby. He's been making some good waves. He's an example of someone who's got the ego, who's got the humbleness. But he's a chill guy. And you should listen to some of his music. But
shout out Scooby.
Scooby.
I remember what I was gonna say. So it is funny you mentioned that. Like you don't mention your art to people, right? I don't know if you have, but like any partner that I've had, like I've never mentioned my music to them. They've like asked me like, cause I'll post it or something. And they're like, "You make music?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." And it's like I've been knowing them for like some time already, and I never mentioned it. And it's like, yeah, cause it's like I don't know. It's just funny. It's funny like someone that close to you not knowing like what you got going on until like you put it on social media or something.
Yeah, I get that, and it's part of that. I just don't want to. I feel like I don't want to shove things down anyone's throat. I don't want to force my friends to like my stuff, or my partners to respect it if they don't really respect it. I understand it's not for everybody. So that in of itself is like a line that I don't tote too much. I may show an art piece to one of my my partner now and see if she likes it or not. But I try not to ingrain her too much into it because it gets personal too. Like what if your partner is like, hey, I don't like this, and then now you're kind of like, oh damn.
Yeah, that's a big thing. It is like I don't know if you're that type of. I'm pretty sure you are the same type of person. Like, it's more of a like I'm a question like asking person, you know, and it won't answer unless asked. I don't know. I think you should be more curious about other people, because you might learn more to apply to your own life when you ask more questions. You know, so don't talk too much about yourself. I think ears should be larger than your tongue.
Yeah.
Always.
Yep. I mean, perfectly said. And I mean, me and you are perfect examples of that. That we work in two different, spectrums of art, and yet we have been able to learn so much from each other.
Yeah.
Just from talking and listening to one another. And it's not always immediate. You know, there are things that you may have said that have just, over time taken root in my own practice. And I think that's also why we can't have big heads about things. You know, have a little ego, sure. Enough ego to say, hey, this is me, this is what I do, but not enough where you deny working with someone just because you think that you're better than them.
100%.
You know,
allow yourself to be nourished by others, and then give the same type of nourishment to them. I don't know, like, well, I guess, you know what I mean, right? Where I'll ask you questions and I'll nourish myself through the knowledge that you give me. And then if you ask questions, you'll be nourished with whatever, you know. There's a big thing. I talked about it on the show a few episodes ago about creating for the sake of creating. And it was something that, a piece of advice you had given me about 2 to 3 years ago when I was working on a project. And I remember it's so hard that, like, I kind of work best when I come back to that, but sometimes your body doesn't fully register advice. Like, it'll register advice and then it'll kind of lose it, and then you have to find that advice back within yourself to, keep creating with that freedom. But that was such a very crucial, like this is like mic drop level, like cherry hybrid knowledge. Like you gave me that piece of advice that's like the equivalent, like I need a poster, like the little cat holding on to
hang in there.
That's like the hang in there poster. I need to put that up because it's such a crucial, like, piece of advice that is so helpful.
I mean, I think that you are someone who's very quotable. You know, you say these profound things, and for me, like my quotable moments are like, just make art, and that's it. It's very simplistic. It's to the point. And yeah, I mean, I do think that a lot of times we forget that we're artists, and the reason why we got into this was not, I mean, hopefully it wasn't. I think a true artist, you never get into this just for the money or the fame. It always started off as a curiosity for creating something. And we forget because we want to make money, because we want to get featured in places, that the real reason we're making it is because there's an itch that needs to be scratched in our minds and our hearts and our souls, really. And that's why we create art. And that's why if you ever get stuck on something, I mean, I think you should stop what you're doing and try to create something that you want to create for yourself, just because it's the act of creation, not because I want to get featured in this magazine or I want to get noticed by this one, art investor. Like, it's because you enjoy it and nothing else.
100%. It's KISS. It's keep it simple, stupid. It is like the core of it. Like, art deters you when you seek the success from it. But if you
another quote right there. Okay, one up in me right now. I just say art is art. He's over here,
when you seek success, art deters you, cause dude, like, you keep looking for an end goal and you stop enjoying the journey. And it's such a crucial thing. I'm gonna send us on a quick break, and then we'll get right back to it. We'll see you guys in a little bit. All right, and we are back here with Music Nucleus, final episode. Here with our guest,
Cherry Hybrid.
All right, let's get to it. What do you want to talk about?
I've been listening to this station since episode 1, and you've implied it, but I think your audience doesn't really know too much about you and your own artistic background. And I think this is a perfect time, the last episode, that we should learn more about this man right here, this handsome fellow. So why don't you tell us, I'm Cherry Hybrid. Who are you?
Egging on shameless self-promo.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to cut us off here. We got full control. So
here's a shameless self-promotion. You guys know, of course. I've mentioned it slightly at Revenge Ivy, 2 Y's. Artist name Revenge Ivy. But I want to get your impression, because you did mention some earlier about collage work, how our art reflects itself in different mediums, right? Mm-hmm. What's your impression of my music? Because I'd like to hear it from somebody that is on the outside, because, someone will have an idea what they're making, but they won't know what it actually sounds like to the outside world. So what does it sound like?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I realized just 2 days ago that that the reason why I can't peg you down like musically is because, pause, right? Is because you're making stuff that I've never heard before. Like, I'm listening to this and I'm trying to compare it to things, and I can, I could be like, oh, this is like a little Cardigan here, got Osama Sun kind of beat to it. But the essence of it, it's wholly you, which is very important. It's essential to find success, to be able to find your own voice. To me, it sounds kind of like, it takes the essence of like garage rock, where it's these young people who are making in this place that's not designed for music at all, in someone's garage, and they're just letting their passion take over. And they're not worried about the money. They're just thinking, like, we just need to find a place to play and show people our music. I feel like the essence of your music is that, but the actual components of it, it's always coming from rap. It's coming from hip hop. Sometimes it does have like indie elements, but I mean, if I have to describe your music, man, it's you. It's Revenge Ivy, honestly, and I think that's very important. I think that that someday, you're gonna be your own thing. Like people are, you don't have to describe Kendrick Lamar's music. You're just like, oh, it's Kendrick Lamar, And same thing with like Frank Ocean and 100 other artists who have, become Hall of Famers in their own way. I think you have the makings of one.
Thank you. You interviewed me, was it last year or the year before? You remember that?
Yeah, I got a shout out to T Litter and Arts Magazine, which is tlitmagazine.com. If you want to read that interview of your host.
Yeah.
It's Musician's Creative Hunger, and over in Cypress Beach, with planes coming overhead every 10 minutes, we talked about music, and we talked about the goals of Revenge Ivy and his project, which at the time was Fake Girl, which is also streaming on all platforms. It's FAUX Girl, and it's a really good listen.
Thank you. I was gonna ask you, because you remember you asked me what artists or bands inspire me, and I mentioned a few, right? Could you do you remember what they were, and could you, if you were an outside person, even find those type of references? I can name them for you. I think I have them off the top of my head personally, but
I mean, you can name them, and as I'm pulling this up,
Yeah.
I'll tell you if you're right or wrong.
So I named, I think, TV Girl. I named Machine Girl. I named Cartoon Twins. I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot what other artists. It's just funny. Like, I say this because the type of inspirations I have don't come out in my music on like a base level. Would you say on like a very intricate like level, if you listen hard enough, would you find inspirations of these type of bands or artists?
I think so. I think that it's more important that when we take inspiration from other artists, that it's more in subtle ways. Mm-hmm. It should be like a vague taste almost. You don't want to code it too much, because then at that point we're just regurgitating everything that everyone else has done already.
Yeah.
So I think that there's like you stand on the shoulders of those who came before you. Mm-hmm. But you don't rely on their height to move your own career.
Mic drop. That's a cool idea.
You just do it just to glimpse over the horizon to see what's coming next, and then you get down on your own feet and you do your thing.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely with TV Girl, especially more of your indie kind of sounded music, some of the beats that you use, I could see the elements, but I'm never gonna be thinking like, oh, this is just new age TV Girl, And it's the same thing with anyone else that you find inspiration in, and that's what I mean by the reason why it's really hard to narrow down, or not narrow down, but to describe. I guess for me, just because I've seen your development since the beginning of you, before you were Revenge Ivy, when you were Too Many Mags, which may still be on streaming.
And
platforms.
Cheese before
Cheese,
that too.
yes, Cheese with a Z. But I think it's good that you have your own voice, because you could take these inspirations and mix them up in your own ways. Because most people, they may do the inspiration like they'll get like a Cardi beat and then they'll sing it just like him.
Yeah.
But you'll do something like, you may take the beat and change it completely, like sing in a different way, or the opposite. You may just like take a beat that's very slow and then just sing like Cardi. Like it's very interesting the way you do this. And I think it's important that we are able to incorporate the talents and the products of other people into our own music and in our own ways.
It's nice. I think this is interesting as an artist. It's subjective, but you should be a mosaic of inspiration if you choose to inspire. The more panels of a mosaic, the more colorful it is, right? The more beautiful it is by being more colorful. So have so many inspirations to draw from that nobody could pin you down to one artist to call you a clone of something, right? And that goes for any medium. I think everyone should seek to be inspired by multiple things, because you can't make the same sandwich as anyone else, right? If you have multiple ingredients, right? If all you got in the fridge is ham and cheese and Jimmy brought ham and cheese for lunch, they're going to think, oh, man, this guy's copying Jimmy. But if you have a bunch of different ingredients in your sandwich, nobody could really say you try to copy Jimmy.
That analogy was really close to falling apart like that ham sandwich, man. But I'm glad we made it through. And hey, I agree with you. Yeah, get that yellow button in there.
Yellow one?
Yeah, that's not yellow.
Oh, this one? This is not yellow. It's green.
That's not green, is it?
That is green. See?
Okay, I'm just seeing a little different. I like that one.
What?
This is how we start off the next podcast,
Hey guys, welcome to
Yo, music Nucleus.
Sorry guys, we're having fun in here. It's like I feel like a kid in a candy store. It's the first time I've been given a soundboard. I didn't realize we had one. I was told when we started class that we had one, but I didn't nobody ever used it, and I didn't know what the buttons did. But that's funny, hilarious. But yeah, I don't. Any questions for me that you want to use to try and speak about anything music related as far as my art, or we can kind of move to the next segment if you're ready.
No, I've been thinking about inspiration recently, and as you were talking just before, I was thinking to myself I've been watching this man make music for the past 4 years, and there have been times where I would see something that he was inspired by, and it didn't come till later, and I would see it pop up in a song, maybe with the lyrics, or maybe it's the way you design your album cover or the music videos. And I'm curious if you have anything on the top of your head, something that was that you were inspired by for your music that wasn't necessarily music related. It was just something random that you ran across, and you're like, wait a minute, I really like this. Let me see what I could do.
I will say aesthetically, right? So the film Doom Generation?
Mm-hmm.
So aesthetically, right, I pulled a lot of Fake Girl, the storyline / trope. I pulled a lot of it from Doom Generation, and I pulled it from multiple. So Pulp Fiction. I guess, would it be a femme fatale aesthetic, or a self-destructive, a woman in a self-destructive state in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a dystopian world, right? I took a lot of that inspiration from Fake Girl. But yeah, films, dude, films. Sometimes music videos, just even a piece of music video will inspire me. Sometimes even song lyrics that like an artist touched on, they mention a thing or and I'm like, wow, I need to like write a whole story based off this one lyric that this one artist said. Um, and I think that's what I've been getting more into lately is storytelling and music. Being more outward about your storytelling. There's a song off this new project coming out May 29th, 3 weeks from now, right? 6 Ways to Sunday coming in 3 weeks. In another life, I was in rural Florida. I was a beep. In another life, I was a, oh, wrong one. I was in rural Florida. And, sorry. I just had to hit that last. But yes, storytelling. I don't know if you like that song, but lyrically, I think it's one of my most powerful ones. But that came from Girl in Red, right?
Yeah.
It came from Girl in Red. That one song, We Fell in Love in October. Yeah, I was bumping that a lot before I made that. It was probably after one of these radio shows that song was made. But yeah, and it's a whole other song that sounds completely different than that song.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, I think, do you like take inspiration from films and other things outside of visual art, or do you take inspiration more so from music to create visual art? Because I think films are still technically visual, but
I mean, when I first started this, I called them fragmentals after the whole fragmentalism, and I was inspired by jazz music, actually. Just there's something about it, just the chaotic nature of it, and how they're able to take all these different. Sometimes they don't even plan out what they're making.
mm,
So you have all these instruments that are playing out random, belches of music, and they're able to combine them together. And that just reminded me of collage in a way, where it's just these different elements that I'm just gluing down on a paper to make a story. So jazz music was, I mean, it's still to this day is like I listen to it a lot whenever I work. Just mellows me out. But my biggest inspiration are things that I find out just in the world. It's easy to go on Instagram and go on Pinterest and look for things there. But sometimes I find myself in a hole where I'll find something I'm inspired by, but I don't know how to take the elements of it. So I kind of just recreate the image, and I don't like that. I don't really respect it too much. But I'll find myself, walking down the sidewalk, and I may see like a building, and the way the lights are lit up kind of looks like a face, and I'll take a picture of that, and then I'll try to recreate that in a drawing, and then I'll just kind of let myself go and just draw whatever, and that actually gets me more, the sketches of art pieces more than anything else. And if I go on my phone right now, I'll find like a whole bunch of different pictures. Recently it's been ants. Honestly, I'll find ants who are climbing over food that someone drops on the ground, and for some reason that really inspires me, and I start looking at the shapes that they make all grouped up together, and I'll use that as a base for a piece. But I just think that the world is filled with these moments of inspiration, and honestly, we need to create a phrase for that too, about when you just go out and you see something and you're like, oh, that looks amazing, like the shadows are laying over the ground like that. This split second it'll never be created again, and I need to take a picture of this.
I think we have so many things that we could patent right now that I don't think we even need to pursue our goals. I think the patents will pay us enough.
I mean, yeah.
I kid you not, like the amount of terms that you and me have come up for like different things is just hilarious.
Yeah, shout out Gregging.
Gregging.
Oh, that's a good one.
You want to give him the secret? You want to give him the sauce for that one? At least, a little.
Yeah. Okay. So I hope that my friend Greg is not listening to this, but he knows we made this. But basically, Gregging is when you you don't want to talk to someone anymore, and it's kind of like a form of ghosting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's been so long. I haven't Gregged in a long time,
I'm Gregging actively right now.
It's just like bad communication, honestly. Like you're waiting till the last possible moment to respond to someone's message. Hold
Yeah,
He just put something
actively.
in front of me.
I'm actively Gregging right now.
Yeah, it's just like, ghosting. You never talk to him ever again. But for Gregging, you always give them a little bit of something.
Yeah,
so they slow. Like it gets to a point where they get so annoyed with you that they themselves
will
stop.
walk away. Yeah,
Yes.
it's like they get bored. You become so insanely boring, right?
Yes. I'm not doing nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not really up to anything right now. I'm just kind of working. I just go to work. I can't respond to your messages. And for the record, I do not condone this, but if you're dating, sometimes you have to have some kind of tricks in the trade. And this is for people who can't just go up to someone and be like, hey, I don't want to be with you. Or for people who can say that, but the person they're talking to won't accept that, I guess. And we call it Gregging because my friend Greg, he did this naturally. Like he would have good communication with a girl, and then he would just forget to respond, or he would just say the most basic thing. And over a long period of time, this girl who had an interest in him was just, okay, we'll see ya. This guy's not really interested. You don't got nothing to say. And, the difference with that and ghosting is, I guess, you're trying to give power to the other person that they themselves feel like, I cut this off. This person was too boring for me, so I cut it off. But that's something, Gregging, that we made up. But I think that there should be this term for these moments that you find inspiring.
I like that because it's like, yeah, it is. You're giving power to the other person so that they have the power to know, hey, I cut this off. Because, yeah, that's kind of selfless, but like in the most selfish way.
It definitely is. But all's fair in love and war kind of thing. Sometimes we do things that aren't necessarily the best, but it's just love is complicated. Relationships are complicated, and sometimes you do things in the moment. I don't know if that's the best one, but we actually get like a record skip button or something, But sometimes you do these things. But hey, again, this is a term for something that's already been around. People have been doing this for generations.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to create terms for it.
All right. We're gonna go on a quick break, and then we'll close the show off with a little bit of music talk,
Yeah.
But we'll be right back. Hello, 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 and we are back here with Music Nucleus. I'm your host Dennis here with you with our guest.
Cherry Hybrid.
All right, a final episode. What do you have for me?
Well, this episode, it's about endings, because this is the last one. And, because we're music, right? Thinking about the endings of different musicians', careers and things like that. And I think it'd be interesting to talk about, for example, Andre 3000, this amazing hip hop and rap musician, and he ended his career with this flute album that did not go over well with most of the population. Which, for the record, I think it's really amazing that this man experimented and decided to put himself out there with something new.
Yeah.
But I found that the endings of how a musician, how they end their career, it dictates whether they're successful or not, and whether people really remember them or not. And this was not a good exclamation point after the sentence of his career. This is it
left a bad taste.
It did. I think he may not have meant it as his ending career album. I think it was supposed to be the start of something new.
Yeah.
Which, if I have to rank the best way to end your music career, it's honestly to have the knowledge first that you're going to end it.
Yeah.
And to, if you want to keep creating music, you kind of end the name that you made it under. Childish Gambino is a perfect example of that, where his last album, he said, this is it. This is no more Childish Gambino. I may make music in the future, but, it'll be under a different name. Yeah. And I think that Andre 3000, it would have been better if that's how he ended it, where, he maybe just Andre now with the flute. And then it's like, hey, no matter what, even if that album was horrible, we're always going to love Andre 3000.
Yeah.
But I think that is the way to end it. But I'm curious, what is your way? Who has the best ending to you?
Well, I want to say best. I wouldn't say best ending because they're still creating music,
Yeah.
But more so who should have
ended.
Trippie Redd. I think Trippie Redd has such a solid starting discography. All of the Love Letter to You's were just amazing up until 4 or 5. And then he proceeded to release a lot of albums with a lot of features. Like almost every song was a feature. And I remember around this time it kind of strayed away from him because it just wasn't my taste anymore. Mm-hmm. I want to make it clear that I'm subjective in how I feel. Some people may still like his music. Trippie Redd, if you listening, bro, I still mess with you, man. It's just, you can't make everybody love your art. But I think he should have ended a few albums ago. Just because, I don't know, actually, it's not my place to speak on that. If he wanted to continue, he should. But I just think that, that's how I feel about Frank Ocean. Frank Ocean actually did, stop, but he left at such a perfect time. He fed us so much, and I think Trippie Redd fed us so much that we could live off of his first few albums and be happy. I mean, people will complain because everyone always wants more, but in my personal opinion, it's you have so much to choose from. Same with Tyler the Creator. I'd be so happy if he just stopped. Not saying I want him to quit, but he's fed us.
Yeah,
I have so much Tyler the Creator albums and EPs to listen to. We don't. He can keep making more if he wants, but we don't need more. Yeah. Any closing thoughts that you wanna give out?
It's important how we end things, and I've heard this before. I don't know where I heard it, but the start and the end are the hardest parts of any project, and I think that a lot of times we lose energy, and we're just it'll end however it ends. But it's important that we decide how we want to end things, because sometimes that's the only thing people will see and remember us for.
Yep. And so glad that I'm here with you, Anything Strongly, here at Music Nucleus. We're gonna miss you guys a lot. I'm gonna miss coming in here 3 to 4 p.m. every Thursday. The rigorous hours of editing due to technical issues and having to catch up. But yeah, that's been Music Nucleus. Hopefully soon you and me might be able to start a radio show of our own.
Yeah, man. Hopefully this is not the last time you hear this man's voice on the radio. So, this is just the start. And who knows, maybe Music Nucleus will come back, whether through a different form or not. But I'm excited, and I just want to thank you for letting me come on this show and talk to everybody. it's been a joy hearing you talk about music these past several weeks.
Of course, of course. And where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram, cherry_hybrid. I have my own WordPress site that's like cherryhybridwordpress.com or something like that.
Yes, sir.
But you'll find me around. I'm based around Florida, and just keep your eyes open for some collages, and you'll probably find me.
Yeah, if you guys have any work you wanna submit, are you not a president of a magazine or?
Yeah. I'll be doing some open calls for some stuff pretty soon, like trying to get some zines started, some magazines, just places for people to submit their work and get it published.
Yeah, look out for Cherry Hybrid magazines coming out soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been Music Nucleus. Thank you guys so much. This is the final episode, and y'all have a wonderful evening. Goodbye for the last time.